All right, ladies and gentlemen, we've come to the end of the road. But before we go and have a well-deserved lunch, I'd like to just try and briefly summarize challenging tasks, some of the main points that we've heard there today. And I think we can all agree that doing cyber defense is a complex task. It's not just about computers anymore. It's about protecting our entire digital infrastructure, which today includes pretty much everything, including our cars, refrigerators, and power stations. And we've been told that we live in a hyper-connected world where digital attacks can deal a great deal of damage, and not just intentional damage. Things can spiral uncontrollably out of hand. Some of the hostile actors we have to contend with are non-states, such as criminal organizations, companies, terrorists, yes. But the most serious actors are still nation-states. They're still the most capable actors out there. Cyberspace may be without boundaries, but it's still influenced by geopolitics. We've talked mostly about one major actor, Russia, which coincidentally is, of course, the neighbor to the Nordic Baltic states. So geopolitics also matters in cyberspace. And we've learned about a tool that we can use to mitigate some of the challenges we face in cyberspace, namely the lawful interception of internet traffic, which we're now debating in Norway, and which we've learned that most states probably already do. But of course, when we implement tools such as this, we get into the age-old debate about privacy versus security. Is it technologically feasible? Is it legally advisable? Does it give us the valuable intelligence we need to combat and deal with these challenges? And perhaps most importantly, does it do so in a way that preserves public trust? Because if there's anything we've learned here today, it is that particularly when it comes to digital influence operations, the most powerful defense we have is in fact maybe the high level of trust and confidence that the public has in our institutions and in our societies. And if we undermine that, we might be making ourselves weaker, in fact, by implementing some technological solutions that in fact weaken some of our most powerful defenses. We've been told by practitioners that the public and the private sector needs to work closely together and are working closely together. There's little warning time in cyberspace, but we need to implement those early warning systems that we can. We need to share information. We need to have good public-private cooperation, and we need to work together internationally. Will there be a cyber war? The consensus seems to be no. Cyber is one tool in the toolbox, and it could potentially trigger Article 5 and a general war if it passes a certain threshold. But of course, our opponents are probably aware of this and will probably keep their actions below that threshold, so specifically not to trigger such an action. We can use other means to respond to serious cyber attacks, but we have to ask ourselves, is it politically and militarily realistic that we will do so in an extreme case? And these are difficult questions which we'll be debating in the years to come. Should we use digital equipment from certain states, such as China? Apparently we can't check to make sure that this equipment is actually safe to use, so we have to trust, and admittedly trust in certain actors such as Russia and China are low in the Western world at the moment. So it seems that we should be careful about what we buy, what we purchase, what we use of digital equipment. The good news seems to be that resilience and denial can be done. It's difficult, but we can do it to a certain extent. So we don't have to rely only upon offensive cyber capabilities to retaliate. And moving from the technological into the social and the psychological, we learned that dealing with this information may be even more complex, in fact, than dealing with the more technological challenges that we face in cyberspace. I was certainly astonished to learn, as you all learned today, that 85% of all tweets, I believe it was, dealing with NATO in Estonia in 2017 was generated by automated bots. That is an astonishing high number. And obviously this is a major challenge which we will have to address. The good news is that we seem to be doing something right in the Nordic Baltic regions. We have a certain resilience due to our high level of public trust, level of education, public awareness, and media literacy. We're not quite as politically polarized as some of our major allies are, and these are strengths that we should probably cultivate and build upon and try to protect. We've learned a couple of new words: trolls, sock puppets. These are apparently bots that don't identify themselves as bots, but pretend to be humans and operate in cyberspace. They create the illusions of popularity and support for ideas that aren't actually quite as popular and widespread as they appear, and they therefore distort reality to fit a certain agenda that certain other actors have. This is obviously a huge problem, which we will have to deal with. It was interesting to learn that our best defense is probably not military or even security measures. Our first line of defense is a good primary school, apparently. Our second line of defense is the free media that continue to operate and is funded. Public awareness of the problem is a huge advantage, and possibly also fact-checking agencies to combat fake news. But there are no silver bullets and no easy solutions, so undoubtedly this will not be the first time we will be discussing these issues. In closing, I would like to thank our 6 cybersecurity experts for having traveled to Oslo and given generously of their time in order to enlighten us about cybersecurity. I would also like to thank Bjørn Svenningsen and Hanne Røslien for having done a marvelous job of moderating the 2 expert panels. I'd like to thank the Estonian, Latvian, and Lithuanian embassies in Oslo for a very productive and smooth cooperation on developing this seminar and for providing national experts and funding. And a special thanks to Ambassador Janne Jorsera Rosula, who originally suggested that we organize the seminar together. I would also like to thank the Norwegian Ministry of Defense for having provided much of the funding for today's event, and for the wonderful administrative staff at the Norwegian Defense University College for making sure that today has gone off mostly without a hitch. Finally, I would like to thank all of you. Your curiosity and patience will today be rewarded not only intellectually, but also physically, as we have now reached this seminar's high point. A free lunch, courtesy of IFS, which will now be served in the room behind you. So, thank you for your attention.